taken advantage of. I keep telling myself that what I'm doing is what is right. And if I let it go, it won't happen forever. But I soon realize that no one gives a fuck about you right now. It's a fucked up world in which we live. You gotta help yourself. No one cares about you. Everyone cares about themselves. No one cares about you. Everyone cares about themselves. No one cares about you. Everyone cares about themselves. No one cares about you. Everyone cares about themselves. It's a fucked up.
Okay. I guess I can knock that off. That might be a little too aggressive for some people. Oh my god! They're yelling! Yeah, sorry about that. What's up, internet? It's good to be back with you on this fine. Is it Monday? I'm not sure if it's Monday or not. I think it is. But either way, it's good to be back with you, internet. Yeah. I think I've kind of asked the question before, like, do you ever really leave the internet? And I don't know. I mean, yeah, but also, like, it is the case that no, you never really do leave the internet. Like, you might log off, you might put your phone away, you might turn your computer off. You might go somewhere where there's no connection or whatever. But you're still very much on the internet because you're like living in reference to the internet. You're thinking, like, when you go on a vacation. I took a vacation from work one time. Take these sunglasses off. I'm inside. I don't have to be cool and wear my sunglasses inside. Took a vacation one time from work. And I had submitted my time off request months in advance, and I had like prepared. And it was cool, and I was excited. I was looking forward to it. And as I was driving through New Mexico at like 6:00 in the morning, my boss called me, and he's like, "Hey man, where are you? What are you doing?" And I was like, "Dude, I'm on vacation. I'm driving to Texas. I got shit going on. You've known about this. That's what I'm doing." And he like proceeded to like guilt trip me. Like it was like 45-minute conversation. I'm just cruising on I-10 in the middle of nowhere, New Mexico. And he was like guilt tripping me. He's like, "Oh man, I forgot, but I wish you would have like talked to me about it before you left. Cause like we're really struggling and I could really use your help. And yeah, I guess it's my fault for not being prepared or whatever, but I guess I didn't know." And he did this like crazy guilt trip. And it really colored that whole vacation. Like it made it worse for me. So that whole vacation, the whole time was like in reference to work. I was thinking about work. I was wondering how the guys were doing at the shop. I was annoyed and frustrated. Like my identity was tied up a little bit in this, like, F this guy. I hate this guy. We all do. But I was also thinking about returning to work. So that whole vacation was in reference to work. And I wonder if, for the most part, and look, this isn't always, I think there's definitely sometimes some modalities you can kind of get into where you do leave the internet and actually leave the internet. But for the most part, most of the time, I think we're always just like temporarily off the internet, but in reference to returning to the internet. Yeah, I don't know. So I'm back, but did I ever really leave? I don't know. I guess we'll have to find out someday. when the robots finally rise up and harvest our souls. And maybe they'll put them in like a jar, so it'll be like a Boltzmann brain, but instead of a Boltzmann brain, it'll be like a soul. And then it'll be like Krang, like that guy on the Ninja Turtles, like with the head in his belly or whatever, like the big robot guy, and then he's got like the brain in his belly. Maybe we'll be like that. But I hope not. I hope the future's cool. I hope we like manage to do really cool stuff. But anyway, pretty sure it's Monday. It's good to be back. We're going to do another episode of Saturday Morning Cartoons with Nance here on 3 Billion Nances. And today we're going to be watching Tyler Murray's talk, Remaining Open to Das Ding. So I think it was a week ago today, we did our last Saturday Morning Cartoons episode. We watched Todd Sumella's AI and Critical Theory. Great talk. Had some great stuff going on in the chat. Talked to Evan a little bit, and that's cool. And I'm hoping soon we'll be able to have Evan on and actually do something with him. So we'll watch his talk and have him on the channel and have a little bit more of a conversation. Because to be honest, I am a little more personally invested in that conversation with Evan, just because it kind of does stem from that night in whatever city we were in the Pacific Northwest, on the ocean. I can never remember if it's Portland or Seattle. For whatever reason, I have a block and I can't tell the difference between Portland and Seattle. But we were there after one of our events on the Tour Zero, and we were eating pizza and we were talking about limits. And it was a good conversation. Daniel Schmachtenberger came up. Nate Higgins came up. Great conversation. But so it's been, I've been invested. So I want to bring him on, talk a little bit. I also do think it's like extremely pertinent to the moment right now. Like we are living through this kind of pivotal phase in human history and world history even. And I want more people to be having this conversation, taking this conversation seriously, other than just doing like this EAC, like, oh, I'm an effective accelerationist, or I'm a utilitarian accelerationist, or I think most accelerationists are silly and they're getting it wrong. But I also understand that I am probably in the category of accelerationists. And at least to other people, I think a lot of the time, a lot of the things I say, a lot of the arguments I make, it might be a little difficult to tell the difference between enthusiastic accelerationists, be they non-political accelerationists without predicate or whatever, whether they be left accelerationists, whatever. People might be like, well, you're just an accelerationist. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, I think accelerationism is like the wrong framing, the wrong category or whatever. I think I'm an acceleration realist, where it's like, well, there's nothing we can do about it. There's no way out but through. And I do think there's actually something that lies on the other side of whatever comes next. And so acceleration is like a current or a trend in the world. I think it's something that can be harnessed, but I don't think it's something that you should kind of turn into your like ultimate, like, this is it. This is what we're doing. So I'm excited to bring Evan on to have that conversation. So hopefully we'll be doing that soon. But on today's episode of Saturday Morning Cartoons with Nance, we are going to be watching Tyler Murray's talk, Remaining Open to Das Ding. Hell yeah. Got Dave in the chat. Got Shrike in the chat. Looks like people are coming over from the end of the live Why Left podcast episode. So what's happening, everybody? Good to see you guys. Feel free to go back to the beginning and catch up. I didn't really say anything important. The first 2 minutes are loud music and it's aggressive and scary. And we're just about to get into it. And that's what I was saying, explaining what we're doing. Saturday morning cartoons here on this Monday. Yeah, it is Monday. Here on this Monday morning. So, like the other ones we've done in this series, we'll watch the talk, and then we'll get into it. Then we'll chit chat a little bit. We'll ask some silly questions. Hopefully, some of you guys stick around, say some cool things in chat, and we'll get into it. So I'm gonna go ahead and switch it up, and we will start playing Tyler Murray's "Remaining Open to Das Ding."
All right. Hello, Internet. Thank you for watching so far. And up next, we have Tyler Murphy, aka Kyler Murray, with his piece Remaining Open to Das Ding. So let's give a round of applause to Tyler.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, so I was renamed by Todd McGowan, Kyler Murray, kind of on accident. But yeah, Todd is like one of my, absolute favorite authors and thinkers, and he often starts his talks with a joke. So I was like, well, I want to start my talk with one of my favorite jokes. So there's these two friends playing kick the ball at the can, and one of them is religious, and one of them is hyper religious. He's a religious fundamentalist, and the other one is not religious at all. And the non-religious friend kicks the ball at the can, and he misses, and he goes, "God damn it, I missed." And the religious friend goes, "Hey, don't use the Lord's name in vain. You know what? He's so religious that he goes, you know what? May God strike you down with a lightning bolt for using his name in vain." Well, no sooner than he says this storm brews in out of nowhere. Thunder cracks, lightning strikes, and it hits the religious friend. And the religious friend is lying there on his back. He's sizzling, and he's looking up towards heaven. And he goes, "But my Lord, why did you strike me when he was the culprit?" And he hears a voice from heaven say, "God damn it, I missed." And I really I love that joke because in some sense I can actually relate to the religious friend, because for a couple years in my life I was very, very Christian fundamentalist, and I kind of think, thank God, I was kind of struck in some sense by lightning, and that was the kind of enjoyment that I got out of thinking that and looking down my nose at non-believers was kind of stripped away from me. And so anyways, my talk is about remaining open to Das Ding. And so it's going to be a lot of kind of pulling from psychoanalysis, psychoanalytic theory, and also Christianity. A little bit about me. My name is Tyler Murphy. I'm an artist. I owned a small art gallery in downtown Billings for about 10 years. And after closing the gallery, I worked a warehouse job for about 8 months before getting back into full-time painting. And I feel like I just have to mention that I worked in a warehouse job, because I feel like at TU you get extra points if you've done that. Yeah. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention too, I'm kind of reading off my paper, and I think that there was some email that I saw that said, like, try not to do that, but I know enough about psychoanalysis to know that the other is split between demand and desire. And trust me, you guys are not going to want to hear me try to extemporaneously speak about everything that I want to speak about tonight. The other point, though, of this is that, like, talking about Christianity and belief, I do take it very seriously, even though I started with a joke. So I want to be as precise in what I am going to share as possible, because probably some people would not like what I'm going to share. Okay, back to kind of a little bit more about me. So I got into theory through Peter Rollins. long, like maybe 8 or 9 years ago, and that eventually over the years led me to Theory Underground. And yeah, over the years I've really gotten into, I love Mari Rudy's books. I spent a lot of time with her work. And then lately, Richard Boothby's books. And Richard Boothby's work is what I'm going to be pulling on a lot for this talk. I occasionally record interviews with authors that I like on my podcast, and that's called The Lenny and Tyler Show. And I've particularly enjoyed interviewing Daniel and Michelle Garner, the psychoanalyst Jameson Webster, and then I got to interview Richard Boothby a handful of months ago as well, and that was awesome. After my interview with Jameson, I was compelled to start analysis with an analyst that she'd recommended, and that's been just one of the best decisions that I've ever made. And I wanted to sort of use this time to really quickly say that one of the misconceptions that I had about the ability to go into psychoanalysis was that it would be too expensive. In the interview with Jameson, she said, look, there are people who will see you for $5 a session. And like when I started with the guy that I've been working with, in that first preliminary meeting, we just talked about that, and we came up with what would be affordable. So don't think that analysis is like something that only is available to people who have lots of money. The other thing too is that I've done most of it over Zoom, and I've heard people say that well, I don't really want to do it unless it's in person. And I'll just say that I had a handful of sessions in person that were great, but the majority of everything that's been meaningful to me about analysis has been over Zoom. So I don't think that there's a huge difference there. Okay, moving on. In my life, I particularly feel called to create and be a part of spaces in which the other can speak themselves free. And that's what happens in analysis. And it's like, how do we take that and make it available to more people? That's what I'm interested in. In 2016, I started a monthly gathering called Story Night, and amazingly, it has continued to be a place where month after month, something magical and unexpected happens nearly every time. And part of my love for theory then has been to do with desiring to better understand what are the necessary conditions of possibility that make possible those magical moments. Because if it's something that my friends and I kind of stumbled into intuitively, that we need to do some work to be able to figure out what is it about this night that's making it to where night after night we come away feeling like our souls are filled up, where it's lasted for 8 years, with and without me for different times. Leadership has changed and it still retains that structure. So anyways, so being in analysis, taking classes at Theory Underground, reading theory, this has all helped me to better understand like why I love things like Story Night so much. And I guess I think that places like Theory Underground, Philosophy Portal, the Church of the Contradiction that Peter Rollins is working on, everything that I see OG Rose doing with the net, and just all the interviews that they're doing, that all of these places might be some part of a larger cultural shift that may help us move beyond this neoliberal hellscape in which none of us have time energy, which makes it so damn hard to build and sustain meaningful communal bonds. But tonight, I plan to talk a lot about Richard Boothby and really how his work has helped me to hold my love for Christianity and psychoanalytic theory in a way that feels honest to both loves. So we're going to talk a lot about the notion of Das Ding, language, belief, ritual, and how this it helps us, and at the same time it can be that which hinders us in our ability to remain courageously open to the otherness of the other and the otherness of ourselves. So, okay, a little bit about dusting. What is it? To answer this, I like to approach it from several different angles. So, but let's first start with how Boothby kind of approaches it. He traces the genealogy of the concept from Lacan's Seminar 11 back to an early 1890 manuscript of Freud's, which was called A Project on a Scientific Psychology, in which, and what happened with that project was Freud wrote it, sent a copy to his friend Wilhelm Fliess, and then Freud destroyed his own copy, instructed Fliess to do the same, but apparently Fliess never did. But this in this early manuscript, Freud theorized this experience of the infant looking at its mother, and that the infant is kind of mapping their body, they're looking at the mother's body and then getting a sense of its own body. And this is very similar to what Lacan will develop into kind of the mirror stage. And all of that kind of mapping the other's body onto the infant's body is to some degree comforting. However, this is followed by a kind of moment of anxiety where the infant perceives something foreign and utterly unknowable in the mother that is disconcerting to the infant. And this perception that the infant experiences regarding that disconcerting dimension is and sorry here, like this is also because of that experience. This is why Lacan will actually divert from like the classic Freudian Oedipal complex, and he'll actually argue that it's actually the infant that weans itself because it experiences this enigmatic kind of unsettling dimension within the first neighbor, the Nebenmensch, and that unsettling dimension actually is what causes it to kind of reach out toward the symbolic to help it get a sense of safety and security. So that's a big departure from Freud regarding the Oedipus complex. But I want to try to stick to just trying to wrap our heads around dusting. So another way that I like to think of dusting is through Freud's concept of the uncanny. The uncanny is what is most unsettling to us is finding that nestled within the heart of that which we took as most familiar is something utterly terrifying and foreign and unknown to us. That's the uncanny. So we've been with someone for years and years, and then one day they act in such a way that causes us to feel as though we never knew them at all. In German, the uncanny is unheimlich, in which Heim means home. So right at the heart of where we would think that we are most at home is something alarmingly unknowable. That's the uncanny. So that's kind of another way that I think about dusting. On a kind of more personal level, I think of dusting as intimately linked to those moments in which it feels as though something outside me kind of speaks to my blood. I love this phrase, "It spoke to my blood," and I remember coming across that reading C.S. Lewis's autobiography, Surprised by Joy, in which he talks about the first time that he ever fell in love with a girl, and just the way he puts it is, "She spoke to my blood." So those are the moments when I feel summoned by something, and I feel like I know that I'm beginning to orbit dusting. So, one of the ways that I know that I'm beginning to orbit dusting is anytime I can feel kind of my voice start to like crack or shake, or my knees get weak and wobbly, kind of like here. And so like there's a lot of good dusting vibes here for me tonight. Will Dave, will Anne, will Nance, will Cesar, will they like me? You know, will they like my talk? Will I like my talk? This is the unknown desire of the other. Along these same lines, this is what I really like about Mari Rudy's work, and how she often emphasizes that sometimes we stumble across certain events, songs, movies, landscapes, people that sort of, in her terms, she says, contain an echo of the thing or das Ding. And that if we take the courage to open ourselves to those things, that those things become infinitely precious to us. And that these are things that we feel like we've always been looking for. If found in another person, then, well, you're likely to have what Zizek talks about when he talks about like the catastrophe of love. You fall in love, and all of a sudden your whole life with all its symbolic identities are put into jeopardy. And so falling in love can be one of the most transformative experiences that any of us go through, regardless of whether or not that relationship endures. And this is the kind of strange dimension of das Ding. This is what it evokes. It inspires ambivalence in us, meaning dual feelings that are in contradiction with each other. On one hand, it's so terrifying to approach it, and on the other, engaging with it is like the most satisfying, life-giving thing that we can do. Falling in love, of course, is terrifying, but it's also so much fun. And I don't think anybody should, like, if you start to fall in love with someone, you got to see that through. You got to, even if it ends in a spectacular blaze of petrol. To abandon such a call is to give ground on the truth of one's desire. And that's what leads to guilt. So another way of thinking of das Ding, I was just listening to Peter Rollins and Richard Boothby talking about a lot of this stuff. Boothby talked about how we are the animal that's haunted by something within silence. For animals, silence isn't a problem. Rustling and other various noises, those are problems for animals. But for they have to pay attention. They hear something. They need to make sure that they're safe. But for the human is the animal that goes, okay, it's quiet, a little too quiet. Okay. Lastly, I think that das Ding haunts us through the cry of the oppressed across the ages. Throughout the generations, the blood of the oppressed cries out from the ground, and challenges are given ideologies and status quo. All right, so these are, just some of probably an endless number of ways of kind of thinking about das Ding, kind of defining it, but also talking about how we sort of experience it. Now, what does this have to do with religion, and why have I titled this talk Remaining Open to das Ding? Well, for Richard Boothby, he thinks that the primary impulse for the human is the religious impulse, and that this actually is tied to the idea that our deepest longing is somehow connected to a kind of calling to remain open to das Ding, to the otherness of the other, the unknown dimension of the other. But of course, as I've been saying, approaching das Ding, being summoned by das Ding, it's life-giving and it's extremely terrifying. To heed its call remakes us in some way. And a lot of times we don't want to be remade. But like most of the time in the Bible, when people engage with God, this kind of das Dingly dimension, they get renamed and they get sent out on some new non-rational life path. And then once they're set out on that path, they cease to make sense to most everyone else around them. So in the terror of the presence of das Ding, communities inevitably develop these rituals and laws to cope with this anxiety. So Boothby explains that for Greek polytheism, the emphasis is on rituals and sacrifices as a way of navigating das Ding. In Judaism, it puts center the law as a way of negotiating the unknown desire of the other. And finally, he argues that Christianity, by way of Paul, really invents belief as a way of coping with dusting, which of course sounds ridiculous because we think, well, okay, the Greeks and the Jews, of course, they had their beliefs. But Boothby's point is that belief, and especially the insistence on the confession of belief in Greek polytheism or even in Judaism, that wasn't what gave someone belonging within those communities. It was much more just their participation in the rituals and the keeping of the law than it was about any kind of affirmation and confession of some set of doctrines. However, with Christianity, we get the emphasis on the importance of affirming certain dogmas in order to belong to a community and to get our golden ticket into heaven. So Boothby says that with the rise of Christianity, belonging becomes, for the first time, a matter of believing. So belonging and believing are now inextricably linked. So how did this happen? Why did Christianity become the thing that invents belief? What's the function of belief? Well, Boothby thinks that this is the symptomatic response to the challenge of love. That getting too close to the real, when we get too close to the real, we usually develop some kind of a symptom. And this challenge of love is what he thinks is actually the real core of Jesus's teaching. That Jesus calls his followers to love not only the neighbor, but also the enemy. In other words, to remain open to dusting. So to quote Boothby again, belief all too easily becomes a means by which the unknown in the other is psychically defended against. By the measure of belief, the potentially threatening other is domesticated insofar as we can divide them into one of two camps: those who share my beliefs versus those who do not. And like I have to say, from my own experience of having been a Christian fundamentalist, this is precisely how I thought of people. I divided the world into those who believe and those who don't believe, and are probably unwittingly in league with the devil. And so really, I mean, why would I ever want to open myself to that? But this puts a person in a paranoid relationship to others and kind of most of the world. So, all right. So I started by saying that Richard Boothby, his work really helped me to hold my love for Christianity and my love for psychoanalysis in a way that feels honest to both. And for the last 10 minutes or so, it's been pretty critical of Christianity, or at least this kind of Pauline strand that emphasizes the confession of belief as a means of how one belongs. And I guess I would say that I still want to follow Jesus because I want to follow his injunction to love the enemy, to remain open to dusting. And as far as belief goes, whether that's like belief in the afterlife, I suppose I kind of am fine with remaining a little bit agnostic about that. It's that I don't feel like that's the top, the most important thing. Loving my neighbor, loving the enemy. That's the challenge that I want my life to be about. So I mentioned story night earlier, and for me, there's just something so precious and sacred about that night. There's a guy who, his name is Johnny Mams, and he's been coming to story night since the beginning. And when he was like 5, he lost his mom to cancer. And so over the years, he's kind of shared different stories about that. But at this last story night, he brought his dad, and his dad used to always read poetry to him each night. And so he grabbed this poetry book, and then he actually, interestingly, my grandpa was a cowboy poet, and he grabbed also this cowboy poetry book that was written by my grandpa. And And he's like, oh, I thought this was weird. And then all of a sudden his dad starts reciting one of my grandpa's poems. And my grandpa's been, passed for like 8 years, but this guy just starts saying, in the cowboy West, all pranks are fair, and some could only happen there. The one that I'm about to share is not so nice, but extremely rare. And then he just kept going and going. And I'm like, oh my God. Johnny gets up. He shares a poem that his dad used to read to him every night. And then a few other people talk. And then Johnny's dad gets up and he goes, I wasn't planning on sharing tonight, but what the hell. And he like pulls out this big wallet. It's like a George Costanza wallet. And he pulls out this folded up piece of paper and he reads this poem off of it. And it was a poem that he had written in the months after his wife had passed. And it was the most beautiful poem like that I've ever heard. And when it was all done, Johnny goes, I never knew that you wrote that, Dad. And it's like, you've had this whole time for, and I guess I'm bringing up Story Night to say that, one of the things that we've wrestled with over the years, I think, is this anxiety that comes from, to what extent are we willing to open ourselves up to the otherness of the other? And I think that there has been this temptation that we have had to wrestle with, to put a lot of rules and guidelines on the night, and to say this is what the night's going to be about, and to get all worried about the weird uncle getting up there and droning on and on. But one of the things that I really think is that being open to things getting weird is at the same time the condition of possibility for things to become beautiful. So as soon as the posture goes from a hand that's open to a hand that's closed, it loses the possibility for the magic to find its way in. And so I guess I'm bringing some of this stuff up to just say that, like, I'm actually really persuaded by Boothby's whole argument that Christianity kind of goes off its rails precisely because of this injunction to remain open to dusting, and that I can see how in the early church, like, it would have been so tempting to make it all about, to domesticate dusting through the invention of belief. Okay, thanks. That's everything. Sorry, that was long-winded.
Okie dokie. Internet, what's up? That was good. Damn, dude. That didn't expect that. Yeah, that kind of caught me by surprise. We got a little emotional. Yeah, Shrek says brilliant. That was brilliant. Tyler, I like you, man. We've had some backs and forths. We've had some communication. We've been we've been knowing each other for a few months now. And I like you. There's something in you that I really appreciate, and I don't know, maybe it might get a little weird if I were to dwell there, so maybe I won't. But like trying to explain it. I don't know, man. I don't know. There's always like something in the way you present yourself that has always kind of struck me as like, I want to listen to this guy talk. So I'm happy that I could do that here today. Uncomfortably sincere. Where's my ironic distance? Matt says. Yeah, I agree. And I think that's, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think you nailed it on the head. Uncomfortably sincere. That level of kind of sincerity of like genuine, just trying to pour his heart out. It's not the norm here on the internet, nor out there in the real world. We all have to kind of maintain this protective, ironic distance. Because I think we all are kind of just hurting. We all are feeling pulled toward the other, feeling pulled toward this foreignness, this strangeness, this potential. But the world we live in doesn't allow us to pursue that and kind of embark on the journey that we feel called to go on. And so I think that ironic distance that we construct is a kind of protective thing. And isn't it interesting that now here on the internet, you know, we're post irony and we're post irony and we're post meta irony. And Dave just several days ago released a cool piece, and now I'm drawing a blank. Ironic sincerity and sincere irony. These are kind of, in a way, the two modalities of communication on the internet. And I think sincere irony is the last bastion of truth. And I think that's the comment that I left on the piece on Substack, was like, is sincere irony the last bastion of truth on the internet? I think maybe. And of course, this is sensational. Of course, you can also just kind of have unmitigated sincerity, unmitigated, genuine communication, but that's more reserved for offline spaces. Though I think it can be achieved on the internet. Yeah, that's more reserved for like sitting in the living room with someone, going on a walk with someone, having a meal with someone. So for the most part here on the internet, yeah, let me find that Substack link and I'll share it. Now, look, wouldn't it be funny if I dreamed the whole thing and it didn't actually happen? You ever wonder, like, am I dreaming all of this? Or is any of this real? I wonder that all the fucking time, and I can't stand it. But no, it did happen, because I mean, it was a conversation. It was a concrete conversation Dave and I had. Gall darn it. I know I didn't dream it. I know I didn't hallucinate it. Just can't remember when it was, dude. Dave, find that and share it. Here it is. Hold on. Copy link. Let me drop that here in the YouTube chat so you guys can go read it. There we go. So, sincere irony, ironic sincerity. I think sincere irony is kind of the modality of truth telling largely on the internet. And then there's this ironic sincerity is when you're doing. Dave's been on the phone with Mikey since the end of the Y Left stream. Yeah. Still on with Mikey. Yeah. What's up, Mikey? Sincere irony is how you could tell truth, but maintain the protective distance, because we're all, you know, postmodern, super edgy, ironic bros on the internet. And then there's ironic sincerity when you're like trying to perform genuineness, trying to perform honesty or whatever, but you're doing it to tell a lie or to like cover up a lack or kind of like disavow a lack or whatever. It's a good piece. I just dropped the Substack link in the chat. Now, the piece is not necessarily about this. The piece was about other things as well. It was talking about like voting. It was before voting. So whenever that happened, was that a week ago? Was that 2 weeks ago? I don't know. But towards the end of the piece, he kind of brings that up. So going back to Matt, saying uncomfortably sincere. Yeah, dude, sometimes it can be shocking to just have someone kind of come out and just like, and not in this like gross, performative, commoditized way where we have, I mean, that's all over the internet where it's like, like, what's that YouTube channel? I'm not even going to say what YouTube channel it is. I don't need to. I'm not trying to be a mudslinger. But there are a lot of outlets on the internet that produce genuine content where it's people. Yeah, hell yeah. Thank you, Matt, for contributing. We'll see you soon. there are a lot of places on the internet that do this kind of content, that produce this commodity that is like the genuine YouTube video, the genuine blog post, the genuine essay, the genuine art piece or whatever. But I don't know, man. We can kind of tell the difference, right? We're kind of thinking agents, we're thinking and feeling, and we know the difference. Maybe it would be worth problematizing this and actually like going about it with some rigor and say, well, how can you tell the difference? Actually, just the other day, Dave kind of called me out. He asked me a question about a Substack piece that we read, and he couldn't tell. But look, it's not like, oh, Dave just couldn't tell. But like, we were like, is this genuine or is this like a fiction? This was the question. And my response was, yeah, it's fake. It's made up. It's bullshit. And I didn't expect it to be a problem. Like, I was just so sure of myself. I was like, yeah, it's fake. It's made up. And also, I don't like it. And I thought that would be the end of it. But Dave was like, well, how do you know it's fake? And the only response I had to that was, I don't know. It just feels fake. So I think it is worth kind of problematizing this and not being too self-sure. But I also don't want to deny this innate sense that I do believe, for the most part, we all have. We can tell when something is contrived, or at least overly contrived. Everything is always going to have an element of contrivance. That's the way identity works. That's the way communication works. Especially when we're on these mediums like the internet, where in order to break through, you kind of do have to have a gimmick. Shrek says, authenticity all too often devolves into solipsism. Yeah, man. So going back to trying to find that Substack article, solipsism, dude. It's huge. I think we are in the age of the solipsist. Like, that is what the internet does. It allows us to be the effective extended solipsist. The entire world is crafted to kind of please our fucking electrochemical carnival. We get the dopamine and we get the endorphins and we get the this and we get the that, and it's all set up. The entire world that rotates around us is set up for us. Everything is personalized to you, algorithmically injected straight into the vein. That is the world that we live in. And so we are all faced with this like functional solipsism, and we have to go out of our way to break out of that. But it's also a question I ask myself all the time because it's horrifying. It's a horrifying thought to think it's all made up. It's all bullshit. I'm really sitting in a room somewhere talking to figments of my imagination. And focusing on authenticity, focusing on constructing an identity and then like playing the part to the T to make sure you don't do anything out of character. You don't do anything that might be surprising or displeasing. Oh, I wouldn't want to displease my subscribers by saying something, you know, that they don't expect. I want to make sure to keep giving them the thing that they have come to expect in the first place. If that's all you ever do, you will eventually just become this little robot automaton that's just doing the dance. And you think, you know, you're the marionette and you think you're the puppeteer, while in reality, it's not even your audience anymore because your audience doesn't have any idea what's going on. It's the currents and trends of the media environment, of the internet itself, of capital, of the churn. And, you know, the churn is something I've been thinking about for years at this point, and hopefully soon I'll write something about it. I actually do have a piece that'll be coming out soon where I like introduce the notion of the churn, or at least my usage of it. That'll be in one of the upcoming Theory Underground volumes. And actually where's my list? I think I had 8 pieces planned that I actually went out of my way to like take the time to write them down. I had 8 pieces planned, and I think I got... Where'd you go, dude? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, 6. I had 1 done months ago. So I had 8 pieces planned. I got 6 done on time, but there were also like 3 or 4 that sprang up in between the time that I wrote my little list here and the time that it was time to have everything done. So I got a lot done on time. I didn't get everything done on time. I also got some other stuff. But yay for me. Keep an eye out. Keep your ear to the ground. Keep checking in with Theory Underground on YouTube and Substack and all the other places to see when those volumes will be coming out. Maybe some of the stuff will be going up on Substack when it's a little bit closer, or maybe like after, or maybe before. I don't know. Who knows? We'll have to see. We don't know. But going back to Tyler's talk here, because it was an excellent talk. And I'm happy I watched it right now. Like I said, it did kind of come out of left field. I wasn't expecting this uncomfortable sincerity. But it wasn't just the delivery. It was also the subject matter. I think when it comes to matters of the heart or whatever, when it comes to even like biographical information, it's really easy to do the gross thing and just turn it into like the commodity, turn it into this type of authenticity where it's like, I'm going to create a brand. And that's gross. I don't want to do that. I do get like hyper aware of when I start to lean into whatever this kind of like personality thing where I am doing like a branding exercise or whatever. And then I kind of like recoil because it's like, ew, I don't want to do that. And I do tend to make it weird. I really like the point that Tyler said, like, have the courage or whatever to make shit weird, because it's only when shit gets weird that you can kind of go on and have the beautiful thing. I think that's true. I also don't like the fact that I always feel like I'm making shit weird. So it's often easier to just like, yeah, I don't do that. I'm not here. I'm not here to talk about me. I'm not here to ask about you. We've all got better things to do. We all already have our pre-existing lives. You know, you have your backstory. You have your, you know, partner, or maybe there's a conspicuous lack. You know, you have your children, or maybe there's a future potential to have children. You have your family, you have your friends, you have all these things. That's not what we're here to do. And it's just hard, man. It's just a hard topic to discuss, I think, in an appropriate way. I think Tyler did a great job doing that. And it's not that he went and divulged a whole bunch of personal information, but he did kind of take it to this like personal register that's slippery, that's difficult. And I think he did it quite deftly. Shrek says, social media kind of makes you realize just how little people talk about themselves. And that makes me sad. See, the thing is, yeah, people think, I think people think they're talking about themselves, right? And people do. Like, people share all this stuff, and it's like, I don't care, man. I'm not here for that. But are they really talking about themselves, or are they talking about, like, what they think talking about yourself looks like? I don't know, man. Then we get into second order observation. Then we get into prophilicity, and it kind of, I think it is the case that it's all bullshit. And so I just avoid it for the most part. I think Tyler did an excellent job. Just yesterday, I think, in Dave's seminar, Dave made the bold proclamation that psychoanalysis is no longer possible. And this is sensational. This is rhetorical. This is not like an absolute ontological statement, but it is a rhetorical device, and there is also a truth in it. And Tyler was actually present for that discussion, and he took it well. And I think he handled it gracefully, and he actually gave some pretty constructive feedback. If any of you want to be privy to that conversation, get with Dave, get with Theory Underground, figure out how to sign up for Dave's seminar, and you'll get access to that recorded conversation. And then the day before that, Mikey gave a spectacular spectacular talk as well in his ongoing seminar. But like saying psychoanalysis is no longer possible. I think from like a structural point, like Dave is talking about it in a very rigorous and very structural way that I appreciate. But one thing that really kind of resonated with me is the fact that like our media environment has made it impossible to do psychoanalysis because we don't have this depth of experience. Like we all are running away from, we're all constantly retreating from the other, this foreignness, this kind of fascinating potential that may be surprising. It also may, be harmful and destructive, and it may hurt. But you kind of have to accept that risk. Or else, again, you'll never have the beautiful thing. You have to have the courage to let shit get weird. You have to have the courage to let shit be frightening. You have to have the courage to let shit be a little bit dangerous if you ever want the beautiful thing. But the world we live in is this kind of insulated, rounded corners, pastel pink paint on the walls. Everything is safe. Nothing is offensive. Nothing is dangerous. Nothing is going to allow you that access to that very, very, very deep part of us. And I think we've gotten too far away from that. Like, I think that is making psychoanalysis impossible today. And once again, that's sensational. That's rhetorical. It's not this like absolute claim of like, this just doesn't work. I think maybe under the right conditions, sure, it could work. But for the most part, and Dave's point is we need to be moving toward a socio-analysis as opposed to a psychoanalysis. And I think that is the case. But again, like I like the fact that Tyler is interested in analysis. I like the fact that Tyler has gone through analysis and is kind of using it as like a framework where when he projects himself like off into the future, analysis is a very important like ingredient in that. So I respect that. I appreciate it. I even think it's pretty cool. Shrike said in the chat, like, is this similar to Levinasian ethics, or how similar is this, or what did you say, Shrike? You said, I wonder how similar this is to Levinasian ethics. I responded, Shrike, I can't see it as distinct. And like, yeah, this pull toward the other, the foreignness, the otherness, the alienness of the other kind of being what allows us as the subject to kind of actualize in and on the world. Yeah, I think that's it. Coming at it from this kind of Freudian point of view, the unhomely, the uncanny, the strange. I think Freud gets weird and, I don't know, maybe even a little mystical, and I think that's okay. And I think Levinas is coming at it from this entirely other point of view. But I do think it is similar enough that where Freud is saying, yeah, it's this strangeness, it's this uncanniness, it's this potentially frightening quality about the other. And then Lacan is going on and saying, yeah, the infant is going to wean itself, and the infant is going to seek solace and safety in the symbolic order. Like, that's, sure, I could see how that would operate that way as well. Because before that, you really do see no separation between yourself and the mother. But look, I'm not a fucking analyst. I'm not a psychologist, a psychiatrist. I'm not any of that shit. So I don't want to continue using that language and thinking in those terms. I do much prefer Levinas, and I actually think Levinas is more robust and rigorous as well. And Levinas is saying, like, there is this something about the other that, like, causes us necessarily to try to, like, transcend ourselves, to try to make some type of contact, some type of connection, have some type of communication with the other. And it's through that we kind of actualize as, like, worthwhile beings. And from there, you know, an entire worldview can be developed. You can predicate ethics and all this stuff. And I think that's appropriate. But it is first and foremost, it is this relation to the other. It's me. And because I'm here and I am sitting in the silence, and the silence is unbearable, it's unendurable. I can't stand this silence. It's the whirlwind. And now, why is the silence terrifying? You know, why? Is it nausea? Is it anxiety? Like, I don't know, man. I have my own ideas, but that's not the point here right now. Like, the point right now is just the case that, like, I'm here and I'm stuck here, and I don't want to be. I am not content to be stuck here. And then I'm like a little meerkat, you know, I stand up in the prairie grass and I look over and I see the other. And the other, I don't even want to say fascinates. I think it's much more than a fascination. There's a recognition that I see in the other. And it's because I am just compelled, I am driven to try to actualize in the field of view of the other as something worthy of mutual recognition. It's because I'm going through all of that. Like, that is the condition of possibility for humanness itself, right? Like, for me to be a self worthwhile of being and being known by the other, like, I have to be, I don't know, but there's no words for it, right? It's hard, it's difficult, but that's it. Like, it is this operation. It's like, I recognize the other, and because I'm driven to do whatever it takes to get that mutual recognition, then we develop the technologies of the human. And from there, you know, we can build up an entire world. And yeah, I think that's the way it works. Recently on my podcast, The Negativity Hour over on Substack, I had a good conversation with Rudy. And I think we kind of went into this. Now, he problematized it by saying, like, well, isn't this kind of like a culmination or the unfulfilled promise of capital? And I appreciate his point, but I think I resolutely stand on my business of it being like this is the condition of possibility for everything else. This is what separates us from the meerkats and the monkeys. It is the fact that I see something out there in the wild world, in the terrifying wilderness, and because I want that something to see me mutually, and I want to develop a shared ground, a shared recognition with them, that's it. Otherwise, we would just be apes. I think, like, language emerges from this. Language is this kind of trying to cope with the fact that I'm me, and there's you. And I want to share with you. I want to get my chocolate in your peanut butter and vice versa. So how am I going to do that? But yeah, I also appreciate Rudy's feedback. That's a good conversation. If you have the time, go over to Substack and check out the Negativity Hour. Shrike says, that was the rabbit hole I somehow tripped and fell into when I was reading Althusser, but too bad Underground doesn't really encourage using the curriculum as a launching off point, and I kept trying to read Levinas with against the facility plateau, but haven't had the chance to get back into it yet. Hell yeah. Well, yeah, look, I mean, Althusser is important too. I don't know when and where Althusser will come up, but it's not like, don't read that, that's stupid. kept trying to read Levinas. I think maybe you should just read Levinas. Maybe just go into it. I don't know, without expectations, without preconditions, without really having anything that you expect to get out of it, and just maybe get lost. Just dive into the ocean. Don't worry about taking swimming lessons. Don't worry about having the life vest and the GPS satellite phone and the, infrared beacon light so they can come pick you up when you inevitably get lost. Allow yourself to get lost. Maybe. I don't know. I think so. I think Levinas is the motherfucking homie, dude. Yeah. The uncanny. I think the focus on the weird, the focus on the strange, while it's true and while it resonates, I also think you can just as easily kind of focus on just the otherness itself. Like the other doesn't have to be scary. The other is scary. Like, it is true that it is scary, but it also does kind of contain this potential for the beautiful. I feel like Levinas is I don't know. It's not to say that Levinas is like this optimistic guy, because I don't think so. But I think I would just prefer Levinas. And also, I think it's more robust and rigorous. But anyway, so there's like that. There's that general thing going on. But really boiling it all down to like a concrete other, and this like falling in love. In the chat, Matt, I did a poll. Have you ever fallen in love? 83% of people said yes. Matt Gilbert said he didn't understand. Like, what does that mean? They understand obsession. They understand this desire to possess. They understand this like want. But maybe they don't understand love in this way that Tyler was talking about it. And I am someone who has fallen in love before. And I think it's the best thing since sliced bread. As a matter of fact, I think it's even better than sliced bread. I could go without sliced bread. Man does not live on bread alone, let me tell you. But yeah, I don't know, the horror of falling in love, the trauma of falling in love, it is this moment of like utter symbolic destruction. Right? Your entire symbolic order is like just exploded right out from under you. And it puts you in like an unsure position with relation to things that you previously were sure of. Everything is now free floating, and there is no assurance of anything. And I think that's freedom. That's the only kind of freedom that there can possibly be. Is this like uncertainty? So encountering that in a concrete other, in this kind of singular other person, yeah, it's painful. Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, it can make you really kind of question everything. But I think it is worth pursuing, because I think that's like maybe the most intensified version, the most concentrated version of this kind of Levinasian pull toward the other. So maybe it is through love and through pursuing love. That's like the highest form of being able to self-actualize. Because like, that's it. Like, I think in general, we do feel this pull toward the other, this kind of diffuse, dispersed, I'm just lacking, I'm just longing. It's this ennui, it's this incompleteness, it's this listlessness that gets turned into like the postmodern condition that we're all in right now. Like, the reason commodities are so powerful and the reason ideology is so fucking good at getting its greedy little fucking hooks in our minds and in our souls is because we all are searching. And you can develop an awareness of that. And you can harness that to like have better habits and be disciplined. And it's like, well, I'm not happy. I'm not content. What am I going to do? I'm going to start studying philosophy, and I'm going to start really taking the idea of being a writer seriously. And so you can like use that to your own benefit. But then when there's that other, that singular other, I think it just kind of intensifies the whole kit and caboodle. So it's a good thing. It's also a scary thing, because then there's the fear of like, well, golly, I feel this like deep spiritual pull toward this person, you know, and what if they don't like me, or you know, or what if they think I'm smelly, or what if they think I'm stupid, or they don't want to be near me. You can have your heart broken too, but again, you got to have courage. You know, if you don't risk the fucking heartbreak, then you're just staying on bitch mode, dude. And that's not what we do here. That's not how we get down at Theory Underground. That's not how we get down over here on my hyper niche, discombobulated corner of the internet. We do the hard thing because the hard thing is often worth doing. And life itself is hard enough as it is. So why the fuck would you want to keep yourself in this little weird goon cave where all you do is eat ice cream all day and fucking jerk off? Like, nah, man, fuck that. And to be quite honest, I've been there before, you know? Like, that's not fucking satisfying. That's not gonna like quench this fucking deep thirst that's like rooted so deep down in my fucking soul. So you got to do the hard thing. You got to do the scary thing. It's also being able, like, honoring and recognizing and respecting the otherness of the other, the infinity of the other, right? Like, you're not totalizing them. You're not just saying like, oh, they're just that guy's just a dumb punk rocker. I don't, you know, or that guy's just some rad lib, or that guy's just some smelly anarchist, or, oh, that guy's just a weird conservative, bigot, douchebag, whatever. Like, really allowing people to remain negativities, right? Again, my podcast is called The Negativity Hour, and it's not even like a dual entendre. It's like an infinite entendre. Because it's all about negativities, and it's all about maintaining tension, and it's all about allowing negativities to open up and not covering them over, not filling them in. But allowing people to be infinities is really the only way to recognize them as these virtual purposive creatures. And that's what time energy is all about. Like, that's our problem with capital. That's why we are time energy reductionists. That's why I care less if someone's an anarchist or a communist or a fucking fascist or a liberal or a conservative, or whatever, because I'm not concerned with just like the base. Oh, someone said Amy Teresa's ghost base Giga Chad Nance. Word. I appreciate that, man. Thank you. Amy Teresa's ghost. Yeah, you said something on another stream but now I'm derailed. Now I forgot what I was going to say. Oh yeah, the base utility. Like, we're not concerned with just like the base utility. Yeah, time energy. We keep talking about that. I'm going to keep it real. It's the only thing worth talking about. And that's not true. That's a bit sensational. There's other things worth talking about. But it is the case that, yeah, we're out here. We're the time energy guys, at least for the time being. And that involves seeing people as infinities, seeing people as these virtual purposive creatures. And that includes being able to look at a person and, you know, understand where they may be coming from. And even if you can't like have this operational, functional understanding of like, well, what must it have been like to be that person? Because it's not about like biographical data. Like, we're not just here to do like demographic studies. But it's about like, well, why might Nance fall into this city sappy fucking self pity party bullshit? Why might he do that? Well, you know, I don't know why he might, but like, I'm willing to give him the grace and forgive him his iniquities. Because I understand he has a past. Everybody has a past. We all have luggage we bring with us to the party. And you just have to open up room. You can't hold shit against people without giving them an opportunity to like try to reincorporate those breakdowns and failings into whatever it is you got going on, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a project, or whether it's world domination via time energy liberation, right? You have to be willing to be graceful with people, and understand there's a reason for all the shit you do. Socioeconomic, cultural, ideological, libidinally, right? So it's looking at people as creatures that extend backwards through history. It's also looking at people as creatures who extend forward through history. Like, that's the point. We have all been totally operationalized by capital into nothing but producer consumers. Capital only cares about the utility. Yeah, Shrike. Grace is a good term for it. I really like that word. I have a history with Christianity myself, and so grace is sometimes a weird word to use, but I also think it's like the best word. Like that it is a grace. It's like, yeah, you know, we all got little bullshit. We all have facts and features about us. And you know, we could cry over spilled milk, or we could just get over it and just be graceful and just be like, yeah, you know, wouldn't it be nice if we lived in a world where this wasn't true? But the fact is, we live in the world where this is true. So rather than try to call people names, rather than play the blame game, and rather than focus on things you can't change, you should just get over it. Just be graceful and you know, don't make it about you. Don't make it about your personal preferences. Don't make it about your, oh, look, I'm so unique and I'm so special. Sure. But that doesn't matter. Like until we're able to like come into a relation with others where we can like make that shit matter. Like, we are the ones who have to make that shit matter. So it does matter. And in fact, it might even be the most important thing in the world. Your singularity, my singularity. The fact that we are all singular creatures might be the most important thing in the world. Just not the world that we currently live in. Like, that's the point. That's why time energy, because time energy allows us to kind of see structures and frameworks that we can take part in constructing so that the world may develop into a place where that is the most important thing. So having this like general recognition of the other, I think that's it. Like, I think that's where all our kind of human technology spring from. I think that's where the magic happens. And that is a negativity. That is an open space. That is just a potential, because it's a ping pong match. And so I smack the ping pong ball towards you. And it's in the waiting for you to return the ping pong ball back to me. That's where the magic happens. So I like negativity. But it is also the case that it's not just a general thing. I believe Arendt has written something on exactly this point. Culture is care and resistance. Need to dig this up again. Yeah, dude. Hannah Arendt. I love Hannah Arendt. Responsibility and judgment goes hard. I definitely want to read more Arendt as well, though. But yeah, for sure, Shrike. Trippy to open up my YouTube and see myself here. Hey, Tyler, dude. What's happening, man? Hey, dude. Are you busy? Do you want to jump on a Zoom call? Can you jump on you're probably busy, right? But yeah, Tyler, I've just been gushing. Gushing? Gushing? Is that a weird word to use? I think it is. I think dude, I think your talk was beautiful. It really has kind of put me in this mood where like I wanna like just share all this personal information about me now. And I think that's a good thing, because again, going back to like the world we live in, there's no room to like share personal information. There's no room to have this kind of instrumentalized, soft and squishy, just kind of human communication back and forth. Like, yeah, so I think it's a good thing to feel that way. Yeah. We're all puzzle pieces. What's that song by the Postal Service? The puzzle pieces in your eyes are mirror images. That song goes hard, dude. Listen to that song. It's a good song. The fact that we construct laws and codes and belief systems as a form of ignoring this kind of otherness, this alienness, this foreignness, that's a poignant point. Like it is the case that religion or even law, right? Even rote, fucking mechanical, functional rule of law approaches beauty sometimes. When we were in Berlin, we walked around some fucking building. We walked around a lot in Berlin. It was great. But there was some building where it was right on a river and it looked like the Parthenon or something. Not even the Parthenon. It looked like the Parthenon times 10. Had the fucking columns and it had like these bas-relief things up on top. And then it even had like statues on the corners. And Dave and I were like, look, that's the capitalist. That's the proletariat. That's the, like, we were having a little bit of fun talking about the statues. And it's very functional, right? And it has to be imposing because these are the halls of power. This is where the long dick of the law emanates from. So it has to be impressive. But it was also beautiful. Found the passage from Epoche magazine. Hell yeah, share that shit. And, you know, churches, religion. I love church music. Let's see. Shrek says, once we realize we are unique beings that carry an inherent worth in themselves, a worth that is incommensurable with exchangeable values, there are things we don't allow others to do to us. And we finally refuse to be treated as resources, statistics, use values. And that's Hannah Arendt. Yeah, dude. I think that's it. Like, I think we have to like harp on this recognition. And I think it is through that mutual recognition of others and selves as these virtual purposive beings. I think that's our line of flight. I think that's our way out of the neoliberal hell world that we live in. I think. But yeah, church, law, even like secular art. Like, you know, art. Like, recently I was talking about how much I fucking loved Rothko. Like, I think Rothko is fucking beautiful. Inexplicably beautiful, right? Can't put into words how beautiful a fucking Rothko is. And part of it is because it's a singular thing. Like, you can look at a Rothko on the internet and that's cool and you can get an idea of what it looks like. But when you go and you stand in front of a Rothko and you get immediate access to this like non-space, non-time experiential phenomenon that is only ever going to be here in the moment for the duration, right? It only happens once. You can go look at the same Rothko on Monday, on Thursday, on the next Sunday, and it's different every time. So part of why I like Rothko so much is because of that, because you are co-creating, you are co-producing the work of art in the very moment when you're standing in front of it and looking at it. It's part of why I think Rothko's beautiful. I also think he's a master painter. And I think it's cool to celebrate excellence, right? Tyler's an artist. You understand that like enjoying art is celebrating the human in a very real way. Like when I take photographs and when I'm happy to share them with people, it's not just like, look at this pretty thing. It is like, let me share some part of me with you. And that's saying something about me that maybe I can't put into words. And it's saying something about not just the way I think, not just the way I feel, not just my special little snowflake nature. It's also saying something about, like, look at me. I have taken the time to master these techniques and master these tools and understand this medium to the point that I can display a little bit of mastery. And that fucking feels good, just like skateboarding. Actually, just the other day, I think, I'm not convinced, I don't know, but I think I made the decision to never post me completing a trick on my skateboard ever again. And look, this may just be a temporary thing. It may just be because I'm in a mood of late. But at least for the meanwhile, I do want to post more of me skateboarding, but I don't want to post any of me successfully landing tricks. I just want to post me failing over and over and over and over and over again, because that's what skateboarding is. Skateboarding is a process of failure. It's a succession of failures, over and over and over again. And Dave told me the other day I need to wear a helmet because I'm getting older and I need to protect my brain. And I hear and I understand and I appreciate the feedback. And maybe I will. We'll see. But yeah, with that approach to skateboarding, it's because I want to show you, like, hey, I've been doing this for how old am I? 38, I think. So I've been skateboarding for almost 30 years at this point. Yeah, I've been skateboarding for almost 30 years at this point. That's a lot of work. I've put in work. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not, yes, it's fun. Yes, it's, I get my kicks and I enjoy it and I get the pleasure and I have the fun and this and that. But also, it's an assertion of, like, motherfucker, get on my level. And if you can't get on my level, shut the fuck up. Now, listen, it's fucking skateboarding. It's stupid. It doesn't matter. But it still is, like, it feels good to unapologetically show the world I have skills. I am not entirely useless, because the world we live in does once again reduce us down to our function, to our utility. So a lot of us have our self-worth tied up in functional ability. A lot of us have our identity tied up with if we have achieved mastery in some skill, in some field, in something or another out there in the world. And it's a shame, because we should be allowed to be soft and squishy, non-instrumental, useless things. But again, that's the world we're trying to create. It's not the world we currently live in. Yeah. But anyway, I think, Tyler, you must be at the beginning, because you didn't respond. But yeah, Tyler said, trippy to come and see myself. It is weird, but you're here, man. Eventually you'll get to this point in the video and I will probably be doing something else and you'll be like, oh, I was catching up. I could have come on the Zoom call. I did want to bring you on, and I hope I can bring you on. But yeah, I'm not good at please wear a helmet. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna. I don't know. I also get a little bit of enjoyment from, like, oh, this could be it. Like, what if I do, like, hurt my brain? Like, the danger. Danger is important. The world we live in has been made too safe. We need to reclaim danger. And that's part of this, recognizing or remaining open to Das Ding. Das Ding is dangerous. There's the potential that you might get hurt. It doesn't mean you should shy away from it. It also doesn't mean you should be reckless And you know, it's not like I'm gonna go beat my head against the concrete. So yeah, I mean, it probably is smart. But hey, look, man, I'm older now. I do take it easy. I you know, I'm aware of my body and my situation and stuff. I'm careful. But anyway, yeah, I don't know, man. I think I did not expect this, Tyler. I'm gonna keep it real. You came out of left field, and it was good. It was a very good talk. I'm glad the people that were here with me, who watched it with me, got to see it. I think I need to go write a little bit, at least, about it, because I do have big thoughts. I do have big feelings. I think it's easy to do the kind of general thing and talk about, like, you know, just like vague generalities, right? But when you start talking about like singularities, when you start talking about like falling in love, like that complicates things, right? That makes it hard, really, to think and feel and kind of understand your own thoughts and feelings. But it's good. It's a good thing, and I'm glad. I'm glad that I'm a human. You know, I'm glad that I have this potential for pain or discomfort or whatever, because along with that comes the potential for the most beautiful things in the world, and maybe even the only things that matter at all anyway. And those things are worth fighting for. Those are mountains worth climbing. And I think that's what we're all trying to do here. Is develop a kind of method, develop a framework, develop an approach, a disposition for mountain climbing, I think. So I'm going to go boogie, woogie, oogie. Everyone in the chat, thank you for kicking it with me for a little bit for Saturday morning cartoons with Nance here on this Monday morning. I will see you guys all soon. Shrike, you gave some great feedback. I appreciate it. Matt, you also gave some good feedback. I appreciate it. Amy Teresa's Ghost. Yes, time energy. That is all we're talking about right now. And again, it's not all we're talking about, but it is the bee's knees. So get with it, get on my level, or go somewhere else. Thank you, everybody. Have a good afternoon, a good evening, a good morning, a good night. We will see you all soon. Peace out.